podcast today with Julius Göllner, co-founder of ARRtist and many more ventures. So, Julius, I think you've built companies since more than a decade, probably 2 decades after being with McKinsey in Zalando and the management there. In the early times, you're also an angel investor in 15 plus companies. We've worked together since multiple years now as a founding partner of ARRtist. Could see the whole what changed during COVID, what changed like post-pandemic, and how is it affecting go-to-market, specifically in the German-speaking market. That's also a bit topic we want to discuss today because there's so much noise on LinkedIn, there's so much on saucer, like, hey, this is what's happening in the Bay Area, in Silicon Valley, and this is in AI, and this is in the world. But these 100 million people in the German-speaking markets of Germany, Austria, Switzerland are a bit more specific, right, of what's working, what's the reality that you see in your Slack channel at ARRtist, like as an angel investor, as a founder, and how that also has evolved over the last years and what you see for the next 5 years, maybe that's going to be tremendously interesting. So with that, long story short, over to you, Julius. Maybe share a bit about your journey in go-to-market over the last probably like 15 years. What have you seen? How have you started? And what do you see evolving as well for the future? And then we take it from there.
It's a big question. Thanks for having me, Manuel. Great to be here. So, yeah, I'm Julius. I'm in B2B company building and B2B sales for 15 years now. I think I started very transactional, doing deals for fashion wholesalers, and then slowly moved into B2B software, where I'm active now for like I think 6-7 years. Built the ecosystem with ARRtist, so I think have a good good network to see what's going on. And as you said, Manuel, I think indeed there is a lot of noise, but also, which is true, there's a lot of change. It's not black or white. And of course, the change in our bubble, in SaaS companies selling to SaaS companies selling to others, I think the change is perceived quite faster than in reality. So if you go a little bit outside our bubble, I think, yes, there is also noise, but adaptation cycles and the speed of change is way slower.
Yeah.
So there's
Agree.
I think this needs to be mentioned because we sometimes lose ourselves here with like discussing about like the LinkedIn like comment posts, where it seems to be everyone is building a completely automatic go-to-market function by multiple AI agents every day.
Yeah.
I think the reality is far away from this, but we see, of course, depending to your own motions, we see a lot of change within certain motions, and we also, I think, see some change in the motion mix.
Yes, I agree. And as some people say, the future is already here. It's just not even distributed. And I need to remind my whole team sometimes that, hey, not everybody is like using Clay as actively as we do. And most 99% of people don't exist, and the other 1% is unhappy with it. And then when I speak to a private equity backed companies, so like we do 7 million in EBITDA, so we're highly profitable, but we don't have a CRM. And it was like, how do you do that? And like, well, we don't have any of the fancy stuff the typical VC-backed Series A company has, but we have an amazing product. People stay forever. They buy more over time. They bring their friends, and we have like 2 people in sales and 0 in marketing.
I think that's
How do you see that also evolving and people finding their right go-to-market motion, the go-to-market playbook in a way for themselves? Because everybody's living in their bubble, right? This is venture capital, B2B SaaS, AI bubble versus this very like managed service bubble. It's like there's agencies out there, there's like hardware companies out there. Like if you even remain in software, there's different ways and different ways how it can work, like it is in sports. Like there's multiple ways to be successful.
absolutely.
What do you see still working in 25 and what has also stopped working to a degree?
Yeah. So I think it really depends, first of all, on your product and ACV. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think this is the first thing we really need to take into account. The less complex, the more transactional the product, the more options you have, I think, to sell without a human being. So in the past, it was product-led, which could be quite successful, or product-led sales supported. The more complex it gets, the higher the ACVs gets, let's say 10,000 plus, up to really high enterprise to like 100,000, a million plus. I think buying centers are more complex. Human interaction becomes way more important. Trust becomes way more important, and so it's quite more difficult to sell on the transactional basis.
With ACV standing for annual contract value, right? For the
Yes.
people not in the B2B SaaS, AI, GTM, SDR,
Yes.
ACV bubble.
So the let's say the annual contract value you would sell to a customer like
Right.
first year. It has a big impact, okay, what you can afford, but also besides the customer acquisition costs to profit contribution back, the fact, I think trust in a personal relationship is the way more important factor. Yeah. So independent of a CAC LTV, CAC ACV ratio, trust is a big thing. So, and if you take into account trust now, I think we could of course discuss now the layers, different layers we are having on it. So maybe let's start with the most common one, and you are into it. It's sales led. Yeah. So
Yeah.
your ACVs are at least at a significant point. You can afford having a sales led motion. So you have salespeople. Yeah. What do we see? What do we see there? So I think first of all, AI can be used to make your sales process more efficient these days.
Yeah.
I rarely see AI occupying the whole sales process and selling alone. Yeah, so you can use it for certain easy cases on inbound, but like let's say AI SDRs for an outbound, like cold outreach with completely automated AI, we are not on the level. Yeah, so I think this is something which needs to be to mention. Where in these days a lot of things is changing is like aggregating information about your potential clients
Right.
and also understanding signals when clients could have a higher percentage of purchasing in matters of time. So you can aggregate, you can find data quite easily to use Clay or any other different kind of databases. And with AI, it's possible to define or understand patterns and prioritize your lead list. So let's say you have 50,000 leads you potentially can sell to. I think it makes a big difference if you first call the 1,000 which are right now in the need of buying your product. The product
Right.
could be software, hardware, anything. So
AI or not, right? I mean, it's just about leveraging technology to buy back your time and do more without hiring more people to the degree. So
ex-
somebody told me, like Silicon Valley person, was like, hey, it changed really drastically once we called our AI agent a digital worker, because now suddenly it got a headcount budget versus a technology budget, and that changed. And that was what at SaaS, like Amit Benov, the founder of Gong, right? He mentioned, like, somebody asked, why is AI so different? Well, SaaS affected 7% of a company's average spend software, and AI is affecting potentially 70%, which is people.
yeah,
Because it's literally taking over people's jobs, even if like there's like, oh Manuel, you cannot say this in Germany and there's already like a recession maybe and people are afraid. But yes, it is. Like if before was in marketing a person who wrote SEO content and a person who cut videos and a person who does captions and a person who does strategy, and now Riverside is doing automatic captions for this podcast and taking snippets, like that job is gone.
yes.
How do you see the job requirements as well evolving to be successful in go to market in a German speaking market, in marketing, in sales, in revenue operations? So what remains the same, what changed, right?
Yeah. I think there is like a new term of go-to-market engineers, which is played quite a lot these days. I think in general, independent of your job, if it's in go-to-market, marketing, sales, there will be a capability of using new technology, artificial intelligence within your job profile. So,
Yeah.
as you said, Manuel, if you're in marketing and you need to capture podcasts, I think there is an easier way than doing it manually. And you need to be able to find potential solutions. You need to be able to like steer this solution and to use them. So I think this is something which is required everywhere and every day. And this something I think it's done within our bubble quite a lot. So people have an intrinsic motivation to deal with this stuff, to read LinkedIn, to try something
Hmm.
people about. If you go to I think the wider economy, I think it's something which uh, also has a big business potential because people need to be upskilled. Yeah,
Right.
they maybe are afraid, as you said, they need to build and generate trust into AI, and they need to understand how they can leverage and use it. So
I agree.
yeah,
I think that the challenge I see in B2B software made nowadays is that, like, this challenge of like right people, right seat, that suddenly, like, I mean, the term is called go to market engineer, and you don't need to have like a PhD in information technology to build a
yeah,
clay table, but it is a very different job than a typical sales professional, like having human conversation, sending an email, attaching a PDF. And now suddenly CEOs think it's a smart idea to tell their sales reps, so pretty much like the flight attendants, to serve people on a plane is like, come here, like I'll make a great experience for you to trust me. And the pilots or the VP marketing, VP says like, now you go and build the plane. I was like, I was not hired to build a plane. I don't
Yeah.
know anything about building planes, and I don't know if it's broken. You'd better don't give me a screwdriver and a hammer to nail the plane. It's not a good idea to do. Like, you would never do this on a plane. If you see a pilot with a jacket and like a suit, like having a screwdriver and repairing a plane, you would be scared.
Yes.
And still everybody does it. And so like, well, go to market, GTM engineer, let's just put it on top of the existing responsibility.
Exactly. I
Because
think
there's
there's
so few people who know what they're doing.
yeah, there's a very wrong understanding, which of course is fueled by LinkedIn and other
Yeah,
channels, is that a go-to-market engineer will replace or automate your full go-to-market engine.
right.
This could work maybe in 1 or 2% if you have really low contracts values, maybe for a PLG model. Yeah. So I think the
Yes.
closer you are to PLG, because PLG also was quite automated already, this could work. But for 98%, it could be an accelerator for your go-to-market. It could help your salespeople who have human contact to do more leads, to work more efficient, to be better prepared. But I think, as you say, Manuel, it's a very different role description, as a very different
Yeah.
skill set, and it should be understood as an add-on and not as a replacement.
Yes, and I think people are confused by what it means. It's like
Yes.
writing smart casual on an evening invite. And it's like, what the hell is smart casual? And some people come in a nice black t-shirt and some people come in a full suit tie because nobody knows what it means.
Yeah.
It's like RevOps, revenue operations. What is that? Like, is that including finance? Is it including product? Is it just CRM and actually somebody doing the dashboard? The same with go-to-market engineering. Is that just the person trying to capture signal and sending less stupid outbound campaigns and building clay table, or is that the person doing growth hacking, which nobody knew what it meant as well?
Yeah. Is it a CRO who is really building the completely revenue orchestration? Yeah. Because go-to-market engineering should be someone who is really
Yeah.
engineering and orchestrating the whole revenue engine. So by
Yes.
name, it should be the CRO, but what we mean with it is someone who is really helping with intent signals and data analysis. But I think nevertheless, where does it come from? I think it's a noun which is probably or was intended or invented by Clay and the surroundings. And what they are doing with this is quite smart. They do category building, yeah. So they created
Yes.
and building a own category,
Yes.
and we can discuss how useful this is for the general market or if it's more confusing. But for them, of course, it's quite powerful.
It's hugely smart if you can create your own category and job market, and you don't need to
Exactly.
hire people, but they're going to work for you by the hype you created yourself. Well done, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the both of us are now talking also about go-to-market engineering and Clay, so they are really successful in what they're doing, huh?
Yeah, shout out to Clay for creating this self-propelling, nearly multi-level marketing motion in a sense of
Yeah,
like,
but
hey, you can become an expert if we tell you you are, and so on.
yeah, but maybe going back to the sales-led motion, Manuel, I think another trend what we are seeing also because of automation and technology is like that there is a shift in terms of usage of channels. So if you take
Right.
written channels like email and LinkedIn, what we perceive and almost for all target and buyer groups is a higher penetration of messages. Yeah, yes, the messages become a bit better because they are maybe built on Clay, more customized, but still, people get way more messages, and the channels get more and more saturated. So, and this of course usually leads to a lower efficiency.
The efficiency is okay with me. The effectiveness is what concerns me. And a serious conversation with like a Silicon Valley go-to-market leader, who's like, we need to have a serious conversation how we can keep email as a valid, trusted communication channel in
Yes,
2027, 6 maybe, because how are you distinguishing it if all the emails are ghostwritten by AI and then it's like Julius AI to Manuel's AI and Manuel's AI is replying? Like, am I going to trust email as a channel? And like, we need to fix like a blue icon or so. Like, how are we going to do that? And one half of people, maybe it's half, maybe it's more or less, are going to care about AI or not, or the other half is just caring if it's useful or not. And the other one's like, oh, but call me and let's meet in
yeah,
person and have a drink and have dinner.
exactly my hypothesis, Manuel. This is what I wanted to say. Yeah, we see a shift in channels. I think we will not fix the email or LinkedIn problem. It
Yeah.
will be more automated. It will be customized because AI can use data and will really like customize the message to your needs. But it will be AI generated. So what we already see is that effectiveness is shifting. So people, we say calling, like cold and warm calling, or also like inbound calling, becomes stronger and stronger. More people, more clients, more companies go into calls because
Yeah.
if it's not AI generated calls, it's really a trust factor, and people still can differentiate between AI, human or not human.
Yes.
And what we also see is like that physical events in any dimension becomes way more important. Dinner, serious,
Yes.
conferences, community meetings, meetups. So like there's so many good examples right now of really well working physical formats. And this is also makes sense because we can build personal trust there, and we
Yes.
can ensure it's not AI influenced or owned.
Anything increasing trust through human connection. So I could go to any LinkedIn profile and get like 3 AI agents together to write the custom message.
Yes.
The message that would convert better would still be, "Dear Julius Göllner, just off the call with him." And people was like, "Oh, say hi to Julius," which is this very human thing which you had like as Homo sapiens in like really old times as cavemen. Like, "Hey, I come from Julius, I come in peace." Like, well, I know Julius and I trust Julius, and by proxy, I trust you then as well, unless you prove me wrong.
Yes.
Versus, I just do anything that is fancy. And I agree with you that it's also less traveled go-to-market motions, right? To like, and it's the same in sports, right? When people say, "I have a time problem, so I just do this stuff," right? It's like, well, just do burpees for 5 minutes a day, like lift heavy weights 5 minutes a day, like sprint 5 minutes a day. Like, but that's hard. Like calling people is hard. Meeting
Klar.
people in person, like getting on a plane at 5 a.m. is hard. I was like, yeah, but very few people do it, fewer than ever. So
Yeah.
it works. It's effective.
And
And then people ask, how can I scale it up? How can I scale that GTM motion? Like, do you need to scale it up? If you want to make 1 million and your contract size is 100K, do you need scale and efficiency? If you can repeat it 10 times, like once a month, like you're fine. You
yeah,
close 1 million a year.
absolutely. And I mean, we are one of my own businesses. We are running an SDR as a service or BDR as a service company, Rep Revenue Excellence Partners, and we see the crazily increasing demand for the service
Yeah.
because it became so difficult to find people for yourself who are internally doing it. Yeah, they are
Yes.
not skilled. They don't want to call anymore, and also leadership is missing skills to lead these people. So even if you find them, you have problems in really steering them.
Yeah.
So, and this is also like a specialization. Of course, if you're like a service provider for a very certain niche and you do only this and you like using tech stack every day, you're screening the market, what can be used, what cannot be, you will of course outperform any internal capabilities usually. So uh,
Yeah.
this I think is like some sense on the outbound motion. I think another motion which becomes way more important, which is linked to trust and human interaction, is partnerships. I
Yes.
think partnerships is something which is still on a low development level in Europe. So there are not so many exceptional people, leadership in partnerships. It's quite difficult to find really good partnership
Agree.
managers. But the beauty of partnerships is usually that partners have existing relationships with customers. They have long-term relationships because they are working on maybe on another product or another service already. They know the people they are working with, and if you manage to win them as partners for your product or service, you can, let's say, you can queue jump this trust building phase and use their trust for your leverage. So
Agree.
partnerships is really something which becomes more important these days.
What's some observations you have why it's not as widely adopted in the DACH like versus the US? Is it more culture? Is it just talent density? Is it proven playbooks and like case studies how it's working, or is it also the economy where I get probably like 10 partnership requests on LinkedIn, like we could jump on a partnership call? What people effectively means, I'm close to going out of business. Maybe you have some customers for me.
Yeah,
So it's one sided when people ask about partnerships.
I think it's two effects. First, it's like the normal evolution of the ecosystem. So usually people and also skill talent is starting in sales and marketing, and then at a certain point maybe partnerships becomes a topic because partnership manager usually are also quite good salespeople
Yeah.
combined with good retention keepers. Yeah, so I think this is probably the most difficult and skilled profile you're needing. So
Hmm.
I think evolution of the whole ecosystem is the first thing. The second thing is we have a quite big misconception what we think what partnerships is. Yeah, it's not like someone is selling for me for a percentage of revenue. This is not partnerships. Yeah,
Yes.
it's really like how can you cooperate? How can you work together to make both offerings more valuable and really also provide an additional value to the end B2B customer. Yeah, so it's not about revenue sharing. It's really about product like a product distribution strategy. It's like common communication. It's really more complex, and I
Yeah.
think many people think about, okay, you get 10% of my revenue, please sell it. Yeah, so uh,
I cannot sell it, so you will be better off because I'm
exactly.
the founder for 5 years and I'll do it like for 1,000 hours, and now I give you zero instruction. I expect you to do better because I can't.
Sounds super promising, yeah. Like the easy way out of the founder dilemma. Yeah, someone else is selling my product blindly, and of
Yes.
course it's like completely bullshit. But if you understand this, if you really build a structural motion with a lot of thoughtfulness and a lot of great incentive schemes, collaboration schemes, then this can become super powerful.
And it seems to me over the years that also need a certain level of product market fit and repeatability and
Absolutely.
effectiveness. So like the three poisonous P before probably 2 million in ARR. Like sometimes one is at a smaller ACU where just throwing energy at partnerships, product like growth or paid ads, you probably don't have the effectiveness and repeatability in your go-to-market that you need to delegate it to somebody else.
Easy rule: before someone else can sell your product, you should sell your
Yeah.
product for yourself. Yeah, and I mean there are super rare cases where startups manage to scale via partnerships really from the early. Usually, as
Mm-hmm.
you said, Manuel, is like post Series A thing, 2 million, where you have the capacity, you have the right messaging, you have product market fit, you have scalability, so you're quite sure what you're doing,
Yeah.
and then you start like really trying to empower and enable partners to work together with you, not for you, together with you. Yeah.
I agree. One thing I often see going wrong in partnerships as a go-to-market motion, and I think it's more than a channel, right? It really requires dedication as like a top
Yeah.
three, top four, like go-to-market play, is an unwillingness to take a stance with complementary companies. So that people's like, it's like, okay, Manuel, you could do this, but we're also in go-to-market, so you're competitor. It's like, versus like Julius starting, right, like CEO of Rep, and now saying, like, look, if somebody needs an SDR as a service, if somebody needs to call people with the wrong people at SalesPlaybook, so anything like calling people, we send to Rep as a good fit in B2B software. Anything where it's allowed around LinkedIn brand building or HubSpot or signal-based outbound, more email, LinkedIn focus, like goes to us. But that requires both parties to take a stance that we're not going to do calls, emails, LinkedIn, HubSpot, everything. And I see very much concern from some companies around, I don't know if it's vanity or like fear, even
Mhm.
false evidence appearing real, where people's like, oh, but this is a competitor. Everybody's a competitor who's in my ecosystem. They also in the ERP space or in the fintech space, right? And they're just unwilling to take a stance in dire times. I mean, go to market became harder. How do you see that mindset in DACH, especially also with the economy that has been better in recent years?
Yeah, I think especially with AI, you need, independent what you're doing, you need a high degree of specialization. So this 360-degree agency approach where you serve every need of the customer, I think these times are over. Yeah. So, and if you're specializing, let's say Manuel, you do HubSpot and Rep is doing outbound calling, then I think there is no real competition. It's about, okay, we both
Yep.
work on our customer's topic and go to market and generate more opportunities and closing more deals and increase ARR. And if we do this together with like two players who are super specialized and super well in what they are doing, the output for the customer will be an aggregated win. Yeah? So, but of course, if like this is an agency who is doing everything a little bit, yeah, you know, the outcome for the customer will be shit because you are
Yeah.
not a pro in all of these dimensions and disciplines,
I think that's
which
more
will
an agency struggle in general with most agencies because they have more offerings than people. I think you,
exactly,
you
yeah.
you probably should have like 3 to 4 full-time employees per offering. So if somebody's on vacation, you can still cover it and you can learn from each other. But I see this even more in software companies in adjacent fields. So let's take the space of enterprise workflow. So there's an e-signature company, there's a workflow company, there's a storage company, and there's a company like Electronic Fax, for example. So it starts as like, we're an e-signature company and you're like a document storage company. So let's partner up. But
Yeah.
there's pressure from the board, from venture capital, from the market to go multi-product. And suddenly the documents workspace process integrates an e-signature solution. And like, whoa, you mentioned like you partner with us and now you offer a competitive product without telling us. Like, how
Yeah.
did that come to play? So
I
we,
think
we
it's
see we see both directions, like the pressure to go multi-product and like go wider to a certain degree in offering and cover more of the workflow versus like go partnerships and build trusted multi-year partnerships.
I I do not 100% agree here. I think there is not so much a pressure of going multi-product. I think yes, there are some PE plays where you say, okay, you're building a kind of
Mm-hmm.
a suite for certain segments. Yeah, so okay, you're building a marketing suite, and then you need
Yeah.
like 10 different products, and you do an acquisition play, an M&A play, And then over time, your initial solution becomes a multi-product solution. I think usually what I see, if you take a look on a regular SaaS software or AI first model, is you would probably try to go up market with your single use case. Yeah. So
Interesting.
the core functionality will probably be the same because you're very specialized in using and solving a problem for your customers. And what you're trying is, of course, you're going from SMB to mid market, you're going from mid market to enterprise, and more working on this. So if you take like a look on the success cases now, Cognigy sold for 1 billion. I think they stayed over time quite kind of clear, yeah, like what they're doing. Paloa is building like an AI conversational AI operating system, so also very clear. Yeah, they don't go into, I don't know, timekeeping or stuff like this. Um, so I do not agree. I do not agree so much here. Yes, of course, I think mistakes could be made, but really starting as a scale up, becoming go to like really reaching product market fit with your core product, and then starting something really new on the side, a second product, it's from complexity perspective quite a tough thing. Yeah.
No, it's more on the vertical integration, right? Like, what, for example, Tesla played when it's like, look,
Yeah.
car manufacturers, like it's becoming a commodity, and very few car companies can manufacture a car because there's tier 1 to 27 for
Yeah.
somebody supplies the motor and the brand, and so like we go vertical integration, and we build we source the batteries, but we're gonna build the own drivetrain, and we're gonna integrate forward vertically.
Yeah.
And this might be why Tesla, for good and bad, has a $1 trillion market cap, and VW has like a $50 billion market cap. It's 20x less,
Yeah.
building the same amount of cars, like having basically the same market. It has 4 wheels, same price point.
I think this could happen, like especially in vertical SaaS models. Yeah, if you in vertical SaaS really like partner up with a kind of non-competitor which is really serving the same target group with a
Mm,
different functionality. So I agree this could happen. Usually, if you're building a vertical SaaS, the path towards like a multi-module operating system is quite clear. So I think in this case, you would also not try to partner up with someone who could be on a
yeah,
2 to 4 years perspective an opponent. So as always, depends a little bit on the case.
I agree.
And then also like vertical SaaS is also not going multi-product. It's more like functionality then, and you're having a one buyer persona. You try to serve more needs there.
Yeah,
Yeah, by definition, it's not so easy to differentiate, I think.
like Cognigy, who's serving 8 different industries publicly on the website. It has like voice, chat, messaging, agent. It has
Yeah.
one for marketing and sales, and it's starting support in a sense. One thing that we see in going up market is that really large companies like DACH, SMI, Fortune 500 level, they are they prefer like less providers doing
Yes.
more. So they will always ask like, can we have that on Salesforce, Microsoft, SAP,
Yes.
and maybe 2 3 others like Snowflake or like Adobe or so,
Yeah.
because it's just like somebody's got a job to reduce IT complexity,
Yes.
while as an SMB is like, okay, fine, like new like 27 point solutions, I don't care, like I'm still like as a small CEO of like 100-person firm, fine, it costs less. But at one point somebody in procurement and finance and complexity management got the job to just to single source everything, or like compound it to like Fortune 500 companies. How do you see that when people go up market and suddenly they want to go from like a 20K ACV to 100 or 150K ACV, and suddenly there's all these new requirements coming in, new stakeholders and NIS2, SOC, HIPAA, ISO certifications, and like suddenly the teams encounter also new challenges,
Yeah.
because before they were marketing 10x faster, slower, innovative, more capacity, whatever, and suddenly they market, sell, and operate with these stakeholders they just don't know, and they don't understand them, quite frankly.
Yeah. I think it needs to be well prepared and well thought through, as you say, Manuel. It's a very different ICP segment. It has very different product requirements.
Mm,
It has more complex buying centers. It has some more legal requirements you're facing to. So it's something you really need to prepare. And it's also not a project a business development manager in a company can drive
yeah,
alone. It's something where you need buy in from the whole organization that you are going to do this step. And you have resources and all functionalities to really deliver against the needs you have in this enterprise segment. Um, to take your other point into account, I think having this big ecosystems like an SAP or a Salesforce or something else could be, if you're still mid-market or SMB, a big opportunity,
Hmm.
because especially this could be your partners where you do a content partnership so they can say, hey, we are innovative using smaller players. For you, it will give you a trust of a big brand. Yeah, it could be a distribution partnerships. They have big incentive schemes for their selling teams to sell also third-party
Hmm.
solutions to increase their ARRs for themselves. So I think this ecosystems, and they are of course difficult to win and difficult to convince and difficult to reach, but if you manage, they are also a big opportunity up to the point where they see the value in your solution for a potential acquisition. I mean, SAP, they purchased Signavio. Yeah, so there have been another quite interesting acquisitions in the ecosystem over the last years. So they are acquiring innovative software,
Yeah.
and I think it's an opportunity. Yeah,
Whereas Signavio was sort of homecoming, right? With Gero decades
homecoming.
on, spinning out of Hasselplatten Institute and SAP Labs, so to say, building for 15 years, and probably both parties had an eye on each other, like during the years and lunch and coffee. It's like
Lina X is another case.
when do you come home, right? Like we let you run the speedboat, like you can do better than this, and then at one point we'll reintegrate. To a
Yeah,
certain extent,
I
might be.
I think it was a quite expensive reintegration then, yeah.
I think this is such an interesting point you bring up regarding what is expensive in opportunity cost. When I read a Medium article, right? So it's not LinkedIn, it's not like hyper, but a Medium article on like Apple's play in AI go to market, right? And it's like everybody's like, oh, Apple's behind and so on. Like, and it's like, look, they just quietly observe, and at one point they will spend double-digit billions. And if it costs them 50 billion to acquire Anthropic with Claude, with the model context protocol and everything around it and run it on device, that's 50 billion on like a $3 trillion market cap. Why not invest 1% to win the AI game once everybody went out of business? So that's maybe a follow-on question on like what is expensive to do or what is expensive not to do in go-to-market. Because sometimes people say like, oh, doing HubSpot is expensive. Hiring an experienced chief revenue officer is expensive. Focusing on like a small town and not going abroad is expensive. But like, hey, it's cheap to run paid ads. It's just like $5,000 a month. It's cheap to hire an SDR for $2,000 a month. What do you see as the perception and the reality of cheap versus expensive changing as well?
I think it's not really changing. I think it always have been that if you want to have quality, you need to pay a certain amount of money.
Yeah,
And if you want to go into new markets, geo-wise, product-wise, target group-wise, it will cost you money. Yeah. So there is no launch without acquisition costs, yeah, or market entry costs. So I think what you need to do is, of course, take into account what's your budget, what do you have on the bank, and the budget of an Apple is probably different than a budget of a Series A startup, yeah.
little bit.
And then is like the question of capital efficiency we have been discussing over the last 3 years, up and down, and this whole ecosystem is okay. How can we use the resources we are having, independent how big they are, and how can we attribute them for the best ROI? So,
Yeah,
and maybe the ROI for Apple is like acquiring Anthropic, and maybe for like a Series A startup, it's like not going from DACH to USA directly. Maybe it's going within DACH from mid market to enterprise, because by coincidence you already found 4 enterprise customers. Yeah, and
yeah,
maybe you wanna play the motion, or maybe it's going from DACH to France because within your existing customer portfolio you already have clients in France. Yeah, so as always, it depends on a lot of factors. Are you VC backed or not? What's your budget
yeah.
stuff? But I think what all has in common, if you want to have quality, it will cost you a bit of money.
I think, yeah, I agree on that bucketing in terms of, and I think it would be like an amazingly interesting postdoc thesis to
Yes.
build this map of like going at ACV XYZ, like at 50K ACV, going to the US will cost you on average 5 million. Like don't play below 5 million, right? It's like in a casino, you have these very pretty much public signs, right? This table, small blind is $500. This table, small blind is $5. So if you don't have $10,000, like don't go to this table.
Yeah.
Nobody tells you that about US or going up market or going like multi-product or so, right?
Yeah.
Are you aware, or maybe you're building it yourself with ARRtist because you have reasonable insights of a rough, like the NEP came from point 0.9 solutions of the metrics, how they're changing over time per funding round. how much is it to go up market from like SMB to mid market to enterprise? How much is it to go from Germany to the UK? How much is it
Yeah,
to like build a new go to market motion? Because I
yeah,
think
that,
that's something every first time founder, at least every first time executive, just has no clue.
yeah. There's no empirical evidence as far as I know, but I can give a little bit of my insights I had from different conversations. So if you talk to growth VCs who are like investing like Series A upwards, they say if you really want to do a market entry in the US, you should have 2 million in free cash flow capital to invest. Yeah,
Yeah,
because salaries are high, marketing
interesting.
expenditure. So they said, okay, if you really want to do US expansion, you need to have a budget of 2 million, maybe 1.5 is doable, but that's the case. Yeah?
And
So
that's to make it work, or that's to make a start?
to make a start. Yeah, I think to make a start.
Because
Like
in investing or as in playing poker, like you need to have more money than to start, right? Because if you start and then you run out of fuel, you need to refuel, otherwise it's just a very expensive trip.
yes,
So you need to have like in investing, it's like a follow-on round, right? You reserve a typical budget of the fund for, if you fund a series seed round, you need to reserve a certain amount for a series A if you don't want to get diluted.
yeah.
So what's the amount then if 2 million gets you to start, gets you a seat at the table? Like how many attempts do you need typically? That's a hard one, right?
No, I
Because
think
it's very
this is a,
specific.
yeah, it's very specific and it's an execution question. I think 2 million will hopefully ensure that you make a successful market entry, ending up with first visible customers. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I think to really build up a country setup which is working and makes you successfully selling your product to US customers. So I think this is like what you should achieve with this money. Um, but yeah, talent is quite expensive. Yeah,
yeah.
like capex are quite expensive if you want to build something up, but you need to be on the ground. Yeah, because like as a European company, no one will give you trust when you're not there. So
I think that's the inconvenient truth many don't want to hear, right? If you want to enter a new segment, if you want to go up market, if you want to enter a new continent, even, you need to be on the ground. You need to go to these conferences, like founder and executive member needs to live in that country pretty much. And
yes.
people try to make it go away. Oh, it's all Zoom calls, it's all Slack, it's all like text, it's all AI, and it's not in my reality at least.
I think pan European maybe different play, but for the US, if you're not there, I think the chances that you will be recognized as a trusted solution will be very low. Yeah, it's not like that
Yeah.
the US doesn't have software for themselves. Uh, and it's a lot about FaceTime. It's a lot about showing up continuously. It's a lot about personal meetings.
Yeah.
Um, so I did a lot of research for myself for US expansion over the last years, and I think one point which was clear for almost every investor who is doing the US expansion route is one founder needs to be on the ground.
Yeah, which is inconvenient, right? Because you have family, friends, gym memberships, whatever,
Super
colleagues, and
inconvenient, yeah. It's either like moving or very very long flights on a very regular basis, yeah. So if you take Paloa, as we discussed, I think Malte, they did US expansion or they are right now doing expansion. I think he is at least there half of his time, yeah.
he
So
gets his senator status done by Easter.
absolutely, yeah. But of course it's inconvenient, yeah. It's not fun. It's flying overnight, not sleeping. It's really hard, but you need to do it if you want to be successful.
That's such an interesting point you touch upon. Like, it's really hard, and you need to be committed to put in the work. How do you see go to market, like nearly disentangling with what's possible and what's working and what's effective, such as cold calls, which we briefly touched upon, and what people are willing to do, like talent on the ground? Because one is capability. Are you able to do 100 push-ups in a day? Like pretty much everybody is. Are you able to do 100? Are you able to do 100 cold calls? Most people are. Like, it's picking up the phone, dialing a number, press play, and say like, "Hi, this is Manuel." So most people are capable of doing it. Very few people are committed to do it. How do you see this evolving in a post-pandemic go-to-market motion, where there was a little bit of entitlement coming up? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen an employee market over the last 5 years in DACH. Yeah, so I think this changed over the last 2 years a bit. So there was a time where people could really select what they are doing, and of course, for the top talent, it's still the case. Um, I think, especially for cold calling, we saw that. there is more resistance to do this. There people are not willing to go into the pain. Um, I'd say it's always about the market, yeah. So if unemployment will raise, which we are seeing now, yeah. So in customer support and performance marketing, AI and agents take over, and unemployment rates will, let's see, but will probably increase. Then also the perception of doing stuff you don't like and the willingness to do stuff you're feeling maybe a little
Yeah.
bit unfamiliar or uncomfortable will increase again. Yeah. So
So
that
simple supply and demand.
is from my
It's
point
a
of view, it's a simple.
very basic economics
Yeah.
101, supply and demand.
If you don't have money to buy your food, you will probably work hard and wash cars. If you have enough money, you probably will not wash cars with at 40 degrees summer heat. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's quite easy. Yeah, so it always depends a little bit on the market and your and on opportunity costs. Um, and the last, or at least 3 years ago, there were a lot of opportunities for almost everyone on the labor market which was qualified, and I think we see this changing right now a bit.
Yes. I think there's one nuance on this, which is leadership by example. And we're both
Of
parents of
course,
young kids, right? And we both know we can tell kids X, but they'll watch what we do. So it's like,
yes,
don't eat chocolate with a chocolate bar in your mouth. Like they want chocolate. And if we having a mobile phone, we tell them mobile phone not for you. Like, why not? Like my big role model called Julius here is doing it or is not doing it. And if you do sports, they want to do sports. And if you eat sugar, they want you sugar. There's very few people like the Patrick Trimpis of this world who still regularly cold call in front of the people and take them and give them feedback, because first, there's very few people who are as good as cold calling as Trimpi or Yuri Veremchuk and so on, who can give actionable feedback that's actually useful. Second, very few leaders are willing to do it.
yes.
So, how do you get leaders in place for your go to market teams that can both lead to a certain extent, also strategically and at least tactically, but they put in the work and lead by example? And how are
Simple
you
answer.
doing this? How do you doing this as like a more technical founder or CEO that does not really know how to assess if the other person is just telling like, well, that's just how it is. That's just how long it takes. That it's just not possible, and you don't know how it's possible.
I think you need good advisors, Manuel. Yeah. So
Mm.
otherwise, these people will trick you. They are good sellers. Yeah?
Yeah,
So, or at least they have experience in selling it. Maybe they're not even good, but they know how the game works. So you need advisors. It could be friends. It could be angel investors. It could be advisors. It could be industry experts. It could be recruiting firms who are very specialized in the role. And of course,
whose
also
role is pretty much that of an auditor, like in finance that exists, and PwC comes in and
yes,
said like, hey, you did
exactly.
finance a certain way, and then tax department thinks so a certain way. There's professionals that are
Yeah.
reasonably independent, like not so much independent, but at least they come in as like, we're professionals. This is substandard, above standard. This is wrong.
Yes.
So so you bring in somebody who's literally auditing your VP sales.
I think it's the same for me. If I want to go for a training plan to run a half marathon below 130, I can of course try for myself here and there. But the best case and recommendation would be to talk with someone who is a trainer or a running coach who can design me a training plan,
Yeah.
and then I'm following his advice. Yeah? So I think uh, you should have smart people around you who can help you. And of course, sometimes this costs money. Also, if I want to have a good trainer, this he probably likes to earn also something for his
Yeah.
life. Also here, of course, a question of like how much am I able to invest, how much am I willing to invest. But of course, if you do this really for your own without having the knowledge and experience for such a crucial role in your organization like revenue leadership, this can backfire heavily. Yeah, you can lose a
Yes.
lot of time, you can burn a lot of money, and could bring you to an existential crisis. Yeah, so this is something I would really be careful about.
Yeah, the interesting example you mentioned with running a half marathon is comparability and repeatability on one single key performance indicator. So if you go to a half marathon or a marathon in Berlin, everybody's running the exact same track, and it's like 1,000 people running the same track on the same regulations on the same day. So if it rains or not, and people's like, well, me, but it rains, like, well, for everybody. So if
Yeah,
somebody's doing it in 3 hours and you're doing it in 1:30, you're apparently better because the conditions are the same. That's hard to replicate in go to market, right? It's
true.
very hard to give the exact same leads, product, pricing, situation, channel, brand, trust, and conditions to 1,000 salespeople at the same time and validate your exhaustive target total addressable market of 1,000 accounts.
Yeah,
And people was like, well, but it's different now. And he was like, true. How do I how do I find out if the go-to-market motion is wrong, the person or the circumstances from the economy, or the execution, or where it's leadership versus the rep? Because I find this a lot harder than a very tangible thing like a half marathon running times.
Yeah, it's way more harder and it's also multi-complex.
Yeah,
So there are many dimensions. I think taking your example into account, you're looking for a leader. I think you have a lot of options and possibilities to like to challenge the skill set. Yeah, of course, first maybe you should find a leader who is familiar and have experience with either the industry or at least the same ICP segment. Yeah. So if it's someone who have sold to SMB already, there's probably a higher percentage of chance that he will also sell SMB nowadays. Yeah.
if you need
Nevertheless,
to
it's
choose of these three, like functional stakeholder group, like HR, finance, tech,
Mhm.
and so on, industry like commerce, construction, banking, and so on, and an average annual contract value, SMB, mid market, enterprise. Which one do you take and why?
Mm. I think this is a bit depends on the industry. Yeah, there are certain industries who have super specific criterias where you need someone out of the industry to be successful. Yeah, so
Like
let's say
defense, aerospace,
exactly. So there's
pharmaceutical.
you could say like defense, it's still high enterprise. You take someone from ERP selling, it's also high enterprise, and put them to defense, it will not work. So there are
Agreed.
some verticals where industry is first. Then we have verticals which are quite agnostic. So I think if you're selling to small doctors, small physiotherapists, small craftsmen, small, I don't know, laboratories, I think this could be learned quite fast. So you could use someone who has strong experience in SMB,
Hmm.
sales-led SMB, and these guys will probably, because of the transaction, of the character of the transactional selling, kind of
Yeah,
transactional, I think if they are smart and have experience, they will adapt quite fast. So then
yeah,
it would be SMB experience in this case.
yeah. For me, my experience, the industry is the exception, with probably defense, aerospace,
Yes.
hardcore pharmaceutical. That's probably the three. And then it's ACV, because it's nearly like different sports, right? Like
Yes.
like I started sales in 2009, like selling for non-profit, and it was 50 to 500 bucks, and really fast turning, 200 pitches a day, 3 to 7 deals a day, like really low conversion, like hard work. And then like Accenture was different, like 1 million proof of concept, Salesforce transformation, and then Tesla was in between, like 150K car, and then 5-figure mid-market B2B AI SaaS in 2017, 18. And we see just like people switching from 100 meter to marathon. It's just different sports.
Yes.
So people's like, I ran for 10 seconds. Am I done? Like next up, next up, next up. So that
Yeah.
they don't have the patience. They need a different dopamine interval of gratification, and they cannot wait for 10 months. Versus enterprise salespeople, they're just too patient for SMB.
Absolutely.
I have like two friends in a way that were both been very successful in the company. One was leading enterprise and one was leading SMB. And I know when they pick up the phone and they call me, one says like, "Man, I have two questions. Question one, question two. Thank you very much. I made you a referral. Bye." The other one's like, "Hey, how are you? How is your wife? Let's have dinner sometimes." And I know exactly which one is selling what, independent of the industry. I just know one phone call will be 50 seconds and the other one will be 10 minutes, because of who they are as human beings.
Yes. So I agree. Like taking these exceptions we mentioned out of the equation, I think ICP segment will be the main driver. Yeah?
And ICP segment, you mean literally average annual
Contract
contract value?
value. Yeah, you can say contract value, or you can say like okay, SMB versus mid market versus enterprise. So let's take ACV. Let's take ACV value as
Yeah,
the most common denominator,
yes,
except this industry exceptions we discussed.
for sure. When you mentioned ICP, ideal customer profile, there's been this thing around like ICP by demographics, right? Like companies of this size in this geography in this industry and so on. And some people say like now, hey, sometimes it's just plain wrong. Like ICP by demographics, it stopped working. It's much more an attitude to innovation. It's much more a
Yes,
willingness to change. It's much more a willingness to bet on the future. Like, but that doesn't exist in LinkedIn Sales Navigator filters.
it's true.
How do you, as a revenue leader, as a chief revenue officer, VP marketing, VP sales, take that into account if demographics stops working to a certain extent for selling innovative solutions?
I hope demographics have never been the primary criteria for ICP. Yeah? For me, ICP always have been a way more complex
Yeah,
aggregation of criteria. I think these days you have more options than ever, yeah, like with Clay or other softwares really identifying the signals. There's an old school way of pre-qualification by call. So I see models where just like an anonymous third party is try to pre-qualify some criteria,
Mm.
and then in a second step the real SDRs are calling knowing that they are pre-qualified. So like there is very different options to identify this not so common far off geography criterias. But I think the really good companies, they always have been taking into account other factors than geo into their ICP.
Yeah, fully agree. One last question, because we could continue this for another hour or so, but we want to give people like reasonable time to finish their commute or run. What's one thing in go-to-market that you strongly believe in, and have strong conviction that very few people agree with you?
I think cold calling will be, at least over the next 2-3 years, a main channel which will heavily increase in effectiveness. And taking all the cold calling as dead discussions we have seen over 20 years now, I would say more than ever, it's super wrong. I think it's a trust building personal touch point contact, as long as you're doing it not with an AI SDR for now. Yeah, so I think this is the one I have a very opponent position. The other one is like physical meetings and physical trust building touch points will become more and more important. I think that's nothing. I'm not sure if it's not something new, but it goes also along with real touch points, which we also have in calling.
I agree. Thanks so much for sharing all these insights. As a very brief recap, I found what I learned from you here, like go to the US not with less than 200 million in cash, not like somewhere revenue projection or so,
2 million, yeah.
and reserve some amount for like a second attempt.
Yes.
In DACH, the future is not, it's not equally distributed. Very few people know about Clay and so on, and also go for the effective stuff like cold calling, like partnerships, like physical meetings, and not just the fancy stuff you see on LinkedIn. There's a lot of noise, like very little signal, and just like try to generally think things through before you hire people when you do anything new in go to market, geographical, industry, segment, expansion, and up market, because it's very different than for the team that you already have as well.
Yes.
Thanks so much for sharing all these insights, and looking forward to see you again at ARRtist, latest in October, in person, physically, in a community-led model.
Thanks a lot, Manuel. Thanks a lot for your strong support over the years, and always happy to talk to you. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.